Hi, everyone. I'm Marlo Brown, and I'm going to be presenting my final reflective practice portfolio for you. Well, a little bit about me. So, I completed my BFA in painting and drawing in 2002. Dates me a little bit. I actually finished my degree from Columbus College of Art and Design, and at that time in my life, I didn't really know um, what I was going to do permanently. I just knew that I loved art and I knew that it made sense to me. So I wanted to start there. And my senior year, I actually interned at an illustration company and enjoyed the job and actually took a full-time job after receiving my degree. But it wasn't something that I could do forever. It wasn't fulfilling enough for me. Everything was very specific, what was requested of me. I didn't feel like I had a lot of creativity in the job. So I decided to look into their options and was really intrigued with the cohort program at the Ohio State University with Art Ed, and decided to start that in 2003. I was in school full time for 2 years to complete my teaching license. And at the time, I took a lot of graduate courses, but I never finished my graduate degree. So here we are. It is now 2023, and I'm finishing it. So I did start my first teaching job in 2005, and so I've been teaching for 18 years. And I wouldn't do it any other way. Now looking back, this has been a great program for me. It's been great to go back into to just refresh and learn new things and be reflective, and it's been great. So when I returned to the program, I really focused from the very beginning of the idea of community and how I really wanted my classroom to feel like a community where we're all learning together and not just me teaching. I wanted to learn with the students. So a school community is extremely important to me. I want everyone to learn and grow together. So I really designed all of my research around that idea. And it was very natural progression for me. I didn't take as many classes as a lot of people in this position right now probably did currently. I took a lot of those classes a long time ago. So I feel like a lot of my research was very self-directed, but it worked really well for where I'm at. A little background about where I teach. I've been teaching in Dublin, Ohio since 2008. I started my first 3 years in a rural district in Ohio, teaching high school. And then I had student taught in Dublin and wanted to return to Central Ohio. And I taught 3 years at the high school level. And then they had changed their curriculum, and they didn't have as many classes offered during the day at the high school. After I'd been teaching for 3 years, and I was the last one hired. So there had been someone that had retired in the middle school level. They asked if I would transition there. And I ended up staying there for 11 years. I actually really loved teaching middle school. But it was starting to get to the point where I was missing the high school level and the level of engagement that I could, and involvement in projects that I could get with the high school level. And so when a position became available at another high school in the district, I did apply for it and received it. So this school year, this last one that we just finished was my first year back in high school after 11 years. So the school that I teach at is in Dublin. It's in the northern west portion of Dublin, where it's known to be a very people live in very nice homes, and there is a lot of it's a sensitive topic for me because I do feel like it has this sort of preconceived idea. A lot of people tend to think that the school I teach at must be very entitled, and that people kind of have a certain persona. And there are certainly people like that, but there's a lot of good people too. So I try to focus on the good and the people that are there and do care, because we do have a lot of that. But we do have 64% white, 26% Asian, and you will feel that immediately when you walk in. That there's two main races, and then You have a very small amount of beyond that. The median household income is $138,000 a year versus the national median income of $64,000 a year. So a huge difference. And there's only 1% on a free or reduced lunch. I do feel like teaching in this district has its ups and downs. Um, for the most part, I feel great parent support and I feel great administrative support. But I will say that typically most of the students I teach are taking my class because um, they need it for a credit. I don't get a lot of like kids that are just really into. Well, I would say wouldn't really say they're really into art, but aren't going to go into art as a career. I do feel like there's a lot of pressure for a lot of kids to do something in the medical field, engineering, that sort of thing. So for me, I try to think about my program as how can I be enriching in that way and explain to parents and to kids why art is important to them, even though that's not something that they're going to pursue beyond high school. So that was something I framed my head around a lot when I was coming up with ideas for my research. Since I wanted to start with the idea of community as my basis for research, I looked into John Dewey and the idea of the democratic classroom. Um, and a quote that I found that I think is helpful is expression of opinion, openness of debate, willingness to be challenged, and the ability to reformulate one's views in light of others is something that is very important to me. I try to always keep an open mind. I always try to listen, and I try to encourage that in my classroom and encourage that we're all different, but that we all have a voice and we all have something to say, and support one another and encourage learning from one another. And like I said, I am one of those people as a community. I'm not better than you. I don't know more than you. I mean, I might know more about art, but we're all here to learn together, and we all have something to learn from each other. Another author that I found that was like crazy aligned with everything that I was researching um, was Carolina Blackgross. She's a professor in New Jersey, and she does a lot of research on community art and how it's positive, and also how it influences the individual and the social emotional piece and that sort of thing. So, a quote that I found from her: "The inherent emotional and social richness that the arts offer might be considered essential to education. The creation of art in social terms is a function of what they learn from others as they become a part of the community." Another quote from another part of research that I looked into, I thought was really good. It just kind of sort of like spelling out all of these things with social emotional skills and community art, and why it's so important. Art-based learning enables students to develop the very skills that futurists say we need most: persistence, learning how to practice and commit to something through many revisions; collaboration, working together on a play and music ensemble; curating a gallery show; choreographing and performing a dance; communication, making sure everyone in the ensemble or cast knows what's going on at what time and how the action or event will flow; critique, being able to distill what one likes, doesn't like in a piece of work; helping others grow from criticism, connecting the work to those that came before. In other words, on whose shoulders do you stand? And resilience, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or even toughness. And I like that part where it says connecting the work to those that came before. And in other words, of whose shoulders do you stand? I really try to instill that idea in my classroom that, you know, you may all stand for different things, but how can you support one another and how can you grow from that? In conclusion, I just really feel that learning is more meaningful, significant, and memorable if it is connected to the community and the students' personal experiences and interests. Many of the most effective learning experiences are those that involve the community in some way and have a direct application to life beyond school. All right, so here's my actual research project. I decided to do this project with my graphic design class. I was actually hired to be the photography teacher because I am a photographer as a that's my side profession that I do. It's my artistic outlet. Um, and when they hired me, they had already made the schedule for the year. So this last school year, I taught a little bit of whatever was like left over on the schedule. So I taught a lot of different classes. I taught ceramics, I taught graphic design, I taught computer graphics. But next school year, I'll be teaching just graphic design and photography. So I wanted to develop a project that I could continue on in my curriculum after this last year. So I decided to do a portrait photography project with graphic design and sort of integrate the idea of how your portrait is designed within the space will affect the way that it communicates. And so that was where I um, tried to tie in the graphic design piece. So students learned photography, they learned storytelling, they learned how to compose a portrait. So they had to learn lighting techniques. So we built on a lot of different art forms beyond just the portrait photography. So my research question was, how can a large scale photography portrait composed and installed by students in a specific space within a high school building teach students storytelling and encourage conversation? So the first artist that we looked at was an artist by the name of JR, and he is a photographer and uh, public artist that started in France. And he's done lots and lots of work over the years to make societal changes and communicate messages. And I really wanted kids to have the opportunity to tell their story through the portrait that they were taking. So we looked at some of the work that he's done. This is a piece that he did at the Mexico border. And he actually took this photograph of the little boy. The little boy was looking over like a pack and play, and his house is like right on the side of the Mexico border. So he was trying to give that perspective of the little boy and how what the little boy would see at the fence. So um, it was he was telling a story through the boy's eyes. And I actually had a conversation with the kids, and we talked about, you know, what this piece would communicate to people who saw it. He had to conquer a lot of roadblocks because obviously he's doing this on the Mexico border. And a lot of people let him, you know, that may have said something otherwise, let him, like the Border Patrol, let him do it. I think they saw meaning in it. And so they actually had a meal where they set out this image was like the tablecloth, and that you can see the fence, and you can see people sitting on both the Mexico and U.S. border. And during the time that they were having this meal, they shared food, they shared conversation, they shared music, and it just brought everybody together. This project specifically, the students were really into this one. This was a project where JR went and collaborated with prisoners. And this was a high security prison where they had to be on board with the idea. And I just kept telling, I really pushed the empathy piece with this one because I wanted kids to have the opportunity to, you know, be in the mind frame of both JR, the artist, going to a prison and speaking to these prisoners, and also thinking about a prisoner and how you would feel if an artist came into your space, like, you know, came to the prison and was telling you, we're going to do this, you know. And I think we watched a video on how JR conversed with these guys and how he got them on board. And we talked about that and how, you know, if he had approached it a certain way, a different way, would they have been as open to the idea? But he was really open to expressing how this was the prisoner's opportunity to tell a story. And it was really teaching to me because then I got to see that perspective of how he approached the prisoners and how he was able to get them excited about it and want them to participate. And I thought it was interesting because I thought, as a teacher, you know, how did he approach them in a way to get them excited, and made me think about how do I approach ideas like this with my students and get them excited. So again, I had a conversation with the students about this and what they thought. So after we talked a lot about JR's work, we ended up I had them all answer questions about the video and then think about how, or the videos and work, and how they thought that would translate and something that they could do at our school to communicate a message. So they all had to brainstorm ideas. And I was super excited with what kids came up with. Kids that I would never have dreamed that would be into something like this were, and kids that tended, just do the bare minimum with art projects were totally into this. They were super excited. They wanted to get their friends on board to photograph. They wanted to communicate their ideas, and that was exciting to see. So after I asked them what they wanted to do and they had to sort of give me a proposal, I put together a spreadsheet. And this was super helpful for me because I'm not very organized. And this was helpful for me to kind of like visualize, okay, this is what everybody's going to do, and make sure there was no overlap and that everybody had equal participation. So this was super helpful for me. And I'm glad that I went through that process because it was very teaching. So the next several slides are just pictures of the kids in action. We are actually, the school is getting a complete overhaul, construction overhaul. So they're adding on 2 new additions. And these girls decided they wanted to bring a face to all the construction workers that are out there doing this work that we don't even know who they are, and to say thank you. So this was all student led. I was super proud of them. They wanted to put it near where the construction is to kind of create a bridge between the construction and the school. They went out into the construction area and asked the different construction workers if they would participate. The construction workers interacted and did photographs that they felt the girls kind of directed them and said to model in a way that, shows your own personality. So some showed their face, some didn't, some smiled, some didn't. And the girls actually got to talk with them and learn about who they were. It was very cool. And then after they installed it, they said, I think we should put their names on there. We need to add another sense of identity to who these people are. These kiddos decided they wanted to show that even though all athletes play different sports, that they all play for the same team. So they did a ton of different portraits with different sports. Here's our school resource officer. Some students just wanted to bring attention to him and how important he is to the school. And this one's actually kind of eerie. If you one night I walked into school at night and I could see him from far away, and it was sort of like eerie seeing him from a distance, but it was cool. It made a neat visual impact. This is a 2-part image or 3-part image. There's an image on the left, the middle, and the right, and it's all images of tug of war. This one changed directions immensely because originally the girls wanted it to be kind of like a visual representation of tug of war between your social and academic life, but then they ended up changing it and just added 4 teachers that they think are really playful and fun and they like, and just kept it more whimsical. And it was interesting to see the different directions that students took. Some students took it more seriously, while some of them took it more fun, like in a direction of fun. Here's just some more pieces on display. This was the library. And here's one kind of peeking in the corner. This student decided to add a digital interpretation, and he added one person on this side, on the left side, has got images of sports from the school, and then the image on the right shows the more academic images and how we tie them all together at school. Some more images in the library. This one, a little behind the scenes, and then the actual image. This one took a turn because originally the face of the student was going to be on the elevator doors, and when they opened up, then it would show another image of him screaming. But because of safety of the image getting crinkled and the door, we had to modify it. But I think it still works. But students definitely had to be flexible and come up with solutions and problem solve. This student said that she always felt when she started high school that she didn't know which direction to go up and which direction to go down in the stairs, because in America we just assume that you walk on the right hand side and you drive on the right hand side, and she was not 16 yet, so she felt like she never knew which direction. So she wanted to create a universal message with eyes to show that the right side is where you go up and the left side is where you go down. This one was cool though, because a lot of people created a lot of, or when we would interview people and we would ask people to critique it, we got all kinds of different interpretations. Just some more pictures. We had the custodian help us hang. It was a huge effort through the school to get permission to do this, to get help to do this. It was just a huge collaborative effort. It took lots and lots of people. And this student is that's photographed in these images is just a well-known student in the school, and he's well-liked. I must say, he's just one of those people that you just feel good when you're around. I think pretty much anybody you would ask would say, "Oh yeah, I know who that is," and then they would smile. So it was a great subject, great choice. It's just the student who photographed him just said he just wanted to bring joy to the school. He just wanted people to be happy when they saw it. Here's some student reactions when they were seeing that image for the first time in the stairwell. This one's an example of a student took a more visual optical illusion approach where the photographs of the people that were taken were placed so it looks like they're pushing on pillars or walls. This was a digitally altered image where the 3 students in the back are actually taller than the 5 students in the front. And this one definitely, you had to know the subject matter to understand the message. This one, the student just wanted to create an image that had a variety of students that looks like they're kind of like in a deep, like a very direct perspective, similar to the JR image in the prison. There they're on the wall. And here's some collaboration pieces. The very last day, we were just trying to get everything put together because we had students out for testing that day. So kids really came together, and some kids were done and they were like, "Here, I'll help you tape or I'll help you cut." And then this one on the right shows a student explaining the project she wanted, and that was the eye project. And so she was showing them, like, here's something we've done, and this is what I would like for you to do. It was cool to see how much social media attention we got. So I posted some of that just because the community can be described as so many different ways. And Black Gross, the one author that I read a lot about, she actually explained community like an onion that's peeling apart. You've got community starts with you, and then you've got a small group, and then you've got maybe your class, and then you've got your school, and then you've got the larger community, and it just keeps peeling away. And I thought that was a really good example of the layers of the onion. And I feel like this was a great way to. We started with me. I had this idea that I thought would be great that the kids could tell their stories, and then they joined together in a small group, and then they worked together as a class, and then they installed it in the school, and then the school was talking, and they posted it on social media, and then the social media of the school, the district got a hold of it, and they posted it, so it just like became larger and larger and larger. I'm not going to go over this, but this was, if you wanted to pause and read any of it, it's pretty cool. Just what I interviewed 10 kids about the experience, and they gave me some really genuine, cool responses. And this was my poetry that I added at the end because I thought that was a cool way to just find some points that stood out in the experience. So my influential classes were tricky because I just didn't have a lot. But every class that I took since returning back to school were awesome. The 2 I chose to bring attention to were the Real Engines class because, and I think I would be like, I feel like a broken record if I reiterate too much with it, because I do feel like everybody feels this way, but it's awesome. It's just learning what you didn't know. I had no idea the level of knowledge I didn't have and should have gotten about Native Americans and representation. And I'm so glad I took that class. There were 2 artists specifically that I found very inspirational. It's James Luna specifically for the project that I did with my class for the research. I do plan on using him in the future because of the photography representation and the identity. Linda Lama Haftawa, I hope I said that right. I liked her work because she also was representing cultural, but she did printmaking, which is something I do in graphic design. So I I really like her work and I want to use it to talk about representation and also just techniques and how you can layer with printmaking. The other class that I, cannot deny as being very influential was just my research class, just because I learned so much that I didn't know. Just paradigm, beginning a research with a question, the methodologies, and understanding the opportunities, different options that were available when conducting research, the terminology, the research studies I read. Not only were they helpful in understanding what's current in art education, they also helped me conceptualize how to lay out my own research. I just put in a quote here that I felt was important. Conducting research has taught me so much about myself and my students. Choosing action-based research was at first was daunting to me, but it depended a lot on everyone else, and there was no way I could do it alone. The students did not let me down, and they taught me that I need to trust more. And I do think that moving forward, I will approach my lessons in a different way, where I used to be much more structured, and I I could predict outcomes more. I think that's just my personality to feel more, as long as I'm in control of more, then I know that the results will be a positive one. But I'm trying to let go of that trust, or I'm trying to let go of that control and put more trust in my students, because I think that moving forward, that will only help. So, with that in mind, I wanted to keep doing this because I do think that it's super helpful and relevant, and just bringing a community together, both in the classroom and beyond. So, I worked in the past with the Dublin Art Council, which is a nonprofit in town, and they are awesome at supporting projects, especially ones that bring the community together. So I've already reached out to them, and they are. I'm actually having a conference with them next week to talk about how to do this beyond the school. So I went to the Dublin Metropolitan Library to look at maybe some options there, where next year students could do this in that space and bring even more people into their stories. So when I went to the library, I took some pictures, and I was surprised to see that the Ohio State University's sophomore architecture program currently has some functional pieces that they built out of cardboard. And so the fact that the library is currently displaying work for them, I think is very encouraging, that they will be supportive of this idea. So I took some pictures of just the space. So to use as reference when moving forward, they do have a lot of the same types of space that the school has, like, because we used a lot of stairwells, elevators, that sort of thing. So I took some pictures of different places that would work really well with this idea. And in conclusion, I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. I hope that it's inspiring, and I hope that the outdoor noises haven't been too distracting. Um, I wanted to say that I would not be confident with moving forward with this type of work if it hadn't been for my experience in the Ohio State University Art Education Graduate Program. The knowledge I have gained and the experiences I have encountered pushed me out of my comfort zone and gave me opportunities I would have otherwise never been a part of. When I realized I would be finishing my graduate degree the same year that I was starting a new art teacher position, my mind started swimming, and I was afraid I had taken on too much. My graduate experience has instead been quite the contrary and helped me to develop fresh ideas and establish new relationships at a perfect time in my career. I am thankful for this opportunity and know that this work has made a difference in my life, not only as a teacher, but as a person. Thank you so much.